Karibu Ibrah Network Lab. Hii ni kozi kamili ya Cisco Certified Network Associate. Okay, before we get started, I would like to say thanks to Jeremy's IT Lab. I use Jeremy's IT Lab to prepare myself for my Ccna exam. I highly recommend you also to use Jeremy's IT Lab as an extra supplementary material to prepare yourself for your Ccna exam. Okay, let's get started. In this lecture video, we are going to learn about routing. However, in the previous video, we had a discussion about switching, and we have seen the basic fundamental function of the switch. How does the switch use to learn MAC address? How does the switch use to forward the frame from one device to another device? So let's get started. By definition, routing is the process of moving the packet from one network to another network. Unlike a switch uses MAC address to forward the frame from one network device to another network device. But the router uses IP address to forward the packet from one network to another network. Now, here is the thing that we are going to see and we are going to learn very soon. Pia tutakwenda kuona there are two types of route ambazo ziko katika Cisco router. These two flags ambazo ya kwanza ni connected route pamoja na local route. Lakini pia tutakwenda kuona hizo routing fundamental, ambapo jinsi gani router baada ya kushakuwa imesha learn hiyo address, hiyo IP address ya ambapo tunatakiwa kwenda kwa kuchagua a best path kuweza kufikia hiyo network. But here there is another thing that we're supposed to know, which is routing method. So there are a couple methods that are used by the router to forward a packet from one network to another network. So the first method is dynamic route. So kwa kupitia dynamic routing, it is a routing protocol ambapo hizo router zinakuwa automatically learn and update themselves hizo routing. So instead ya kwenda kuconfigure manually kwenye kila router na exchange the information, this router they are going to do themselves automatically. Zinakwenda ku send the advertise and they are going to send themselves the advertisement message, and they are going to adjust and see and learn automatically their routing. But another method is the static routing. Static routing is when a network administrator you manually tell a router on how to reach a destination network. So you're going to tell a router, for you to reach a destination network or for you to reach this network, you're supposed to pass via this interface. So that is a static routing. Now, there are different types of static route that you're supposed to know, and we are going to see them and we are going to have a configuration on them. The first one is a static route. Now, a standard static route. A standard static route, for example, you're going to specify a destination network. This is address of the destination network, and this is a prefix, subnet mask, and this one address ambayo ni 10.1.1.2. This is the address of the next hop router, the neighbor's address. Don't worry, we are going to see it very soon. But another type is the default static route. This is mostly used when a router doesn't know the destination, how to reach the destination. So you're going just to advertise or tell it by say IP route. This is the default. So router it is going to forward to any address because it is a default route. So any address which it is going to be contained from that router, by entering this command, then the packet they are going to be forwarded. And this one here also it is just the next hop address. Or in other way, we just say this is a gateway of last resort. Also, another type of a static route is a floating static route. This is also known as a backup route. It is used only when the primary route inapokuwa fail. So also don't worry about this. We are going to have a configuration about this in the separate video. But this one we usually contain by configuring this by adding the administrative distance, which is higher than a routing that it is used at the moment. Okay, hii ni simple topology ambayo tutatumia nitaweza kuonesha jinsi gani tuna configure static routing kwenye hii topology yetu. So for example here tuna router 3 lakini tuna switch 2 na one desktop from each local area network. But from local area network, for example, maybe a company, there could be many devices. But for this, just for lab video, I just used only single desktop. Haimaanishi kwamba kwenye hii LAN kutatakiwa kuna only one PC. But in reality, kunaweza kawa kuna network device nyingi. But I just use this only single devices just for showing demonstration. Now, I will going to show you just a screenshot of the command ambazo nimezifanya kwenye hizi network devices zangu. So then in the next video tutakwenda kuwa na lab video jinsi ya kuconfigure a static route. Now, the first thing that I have done here, I have do a configuration from these all network devices. But for the sake of time, I have only just take the screenshot of only configuration from this router. So I'll be just showing this command line configuration on my lecture video of only this router because for the sake of time. So the commands are just the same, but I have only used to show from this router. Now, the first thing that you're supposed to do, I'm supposed to assign IP address from these interfaces of all routers. So I have already assigned IP address. So as you can see here, ndo nilipokuwa nafanya configuration. So I enter in the privilege exact mode, then global configuration mode. And once you see here, I enter in the interface Ethernet 0/2, which was this one. Then I assign it IP address by line command IP address, which was 192.168.0.1, then followed by subnet mask. Now, do you remember in my lecture video of IP address, when we learn about classes of IP address, we learn about class A, class B, and class C. And we have already learned about the default subnet mask of each class. The class A default subnet mask, it was 255.0.0.0. And the default subnet mask of class B, it was 255.255.0.0. And also finally, the default subnet mask ya class C ilikuwa ni 255.255.255.0. If you don't remember about this, take your time, go and review in my previous video. I have already explained it about this. Now, finally, after you have already entered the IP address for this interface, then you're supposed to enable it by writing the command no shutdown. Then, after you enter the command and you have already assigned to all interface from this router, then this is command to show and verify that this interface, the command that you have entered was correctly assigned to your interfaces. So if you want to view what you have done for this interface, just write show IP interface brief. Then this command, it is going to show you my interfaces such as Ethernet 0/0. It was assigned IP address which was 192.168.30.2. And the method that was used to assign IP address to this interface ilikuwa ni manual configuration. So I did it manually, as you can see here. I was writing in the command line interface. Then the status and the protocol all are up. Status, it belongs to layer 1 of the OSI model, and the protocol, this belongs to layer 2 of the OSI model. And so on here, katika Ethernet 0/1, which was this one, onesha ilipewa IP address, method iliyotumika ni manually, and it is up. Also finally katika hii Ethernet 0/2, I was assigned IP address, and finally it is up. Now after I have assigned IP address to my interface, and baada ya enable zisiwe a shutdown, because by default kama unakumbuka is router interface, they are administrative shutdown by default. So you're supposed to enable them by writing the command no shutdown. Then before I started configured a static routing, I entered the command, this one, in the privilege exact mode, ambayo ilikuwa ni show IP route. Now once I enter this command, as you can see, these are output of this command. But here at the top, there are different flags that represented from this command. So these flags, they are going to help you to learn your routing table. But don't worry about these flags because we are going to see some of them. But from this lecture video, we are going to only cover with this L together with connected. Local pamoja na hii connected. Now, hapa chini inaonyesha hii ndio routing table ya hii router yangu. Before hapa, kabla tujafanya any configuration, kabla tuja assign ama kabla tuja configure any static routing. Now, my router, its routing table ilikuwa ni hii hapa. Now, once something that which we have noticed, ukiangalia huku kushoto kuna hizi C pamoja na L, and C represent connected and L represent this is a local. Now these flags, it is going to help you to know kwamba katika hii routing table yangu hizi routing zimekuwa led na hii router kupitia flag ipi. So if it could be S, maana yake na represent imekuwa led by static routing. It means kwamba static routing, once you remember, a network administrator, you must manually configure and tell a router to reach a destination network, how to reach a destination network. But what about this R pamoja na hizi M, B, D, hizi ni katika dynamic routing. So we are going to cover some of them such as OSPF, we're going to have RIP, EGRP, and so on. BGP, it is not a scope of your Ccna exam, so you're not supposed to know. But after I have already viewed my a routing table ya router yangu hii hapa, it was having a different network ambazo hizi network zinanionyesha hapa, for example C, which means this network it is direct connected to this router. So C means this network ya 192.168.0.0/24 it is directly connected to my router via interface Ethernet 0/2. So tukirudi hapa katika topology, it is true. Network 192.168.0.0/24 it is direct connected to my router via interface hii hapa. And my routing table, it tell me that this network it is C, which means it is direct connected, and it's true. Now, and once you have seen here, L represent this, it is a local. Now, before I explain for this local, once we remember here katika this network, which is /24, we discussed in the IP video. Tulisema kwamba once you see a /24 means the first 24 bits from this network now represent this is a network portion. And this network portion means they are fixed. They are not going to be changed. However, the remaining bits ambazo ni 8 bits, this can be changed because these address ambazo zinakuwa contained hapa katika 8 bits zinakuwa assigned to the host, to the end device. So it can be changed depending on the numbers of the devices and that are contained from that network. So if you don't remember this, also take your time, go and pursue my previous video. Then the next here it is L, which means a local. So this network it was locally led by our routing table. So it is 192.168.0.1/32. /32 means this address it is fixed. Now this is the address of this interface. So hapo ukiangalia hii network 192.168.0.1/32, hii ndio address ya hii interface hapa ya interface Ethernet 0/2 ambayo tuliassign ilikuwa ni 192.168.0.1. So this router it is going to add it on its routing table as the /32, which means this address it is fixed and cannot be changed or cannot be any modified. Now as you can see here, also inaonyesha kwamba imelane pia network 192.168.10.0/24. Now what is this network? It is here 192.168.10.0/24, and it is also see that it is direct connected via interface. It is direct connected via interface Ethernet 0/1, and it is true. Hii router imekuwa connected kwenye hii network ya 192.168.10.0/30 via interface Ethernet 0/1 as what routing table inavyotuambia. And that is a very simple way of learning this routing table. And for your information, you're supposed to be able to learn and evaluate this routing table of the router. Because to your Ccna exam, you might find this question that you have been given the address that it is going to be received from that router, and you're going to tell or you ask the question kwamba hiyo address ambayo imepokea katika hiyo router interface itakuwa forwarded kwenye interface ipi katika its routing table. So kama hauko familiar na jinsi ya kuread na kuunderstand hii routing table, automatically you're going to miss and fail that question. Now let's get started here on how to configure a static route. Once you can see here, after I enter in the global configuration mode, so I shift from privilege exact mode, then I enter in the global configuration mode, and I type the command IP route. Then I followed by question mark to see what I can do here after this command. But there are a couple of the options ambazo naweza nikazifanya nikiwa katika hii mode. But since we said we are supposed to configure a static route, I will only enter the first option, which inaniambia kwamba natakiwa ni specify a destination prefix. And for this scope now, I have specified my destination prefix. Now, let me explain before I enter this destination prefix. Now, I need to tell my router, kwa sababu sisi tunafanya static route. Tumesema tukifanya static route tunafanya manual kuifundisha router iweze kufika katika hiyo destination network. Now, I'm going to teach this router on how to reach this network ambayo ni 192.168.20.0/30. Now, I'm supposed to teach this router on how to reach this network. Kwa sababu hapa ilipo, hata tukiangalia katika routing table yake hapa, hakuna hii network ya 192.168.20.0/30. So once you look at here, there is no that address from its routing table. So in case kama hii router ikapokea any packet ambayo inatakiwa ifike katika hii network, basi this router it is not going to be able to reach this network, and then it is going to drop that frame. Now, for this router ili iweze kuforward hiyo packet iweze kufika katika hii network, first inatakiwa iwe na hiyo network katika its routing table yake. So there are different methods ambazo tumezisoma. For example, it can be dynamic routing or can be static routing. But because we say we start with the static routing, we are supposed now to teach this router. Now, how are you going to teach it? Unaingia katika global configuration mode and you write this command IP route. Now, for this scope, I'm supposed to teach this router iweze kufika katika hii network, lakini pia nataka nifundishe hii router iweze kufika katika hii local area network ambayo imekuwa connected katika hii router. Now, what I'm supposed to do, I enter the IP route, then followed by question mark. It tells me I'm supposed to enter the destination prefix lengths, and also there are different couple of the options that you can do from this mode. But let us just use the first mode here ambayo ni destination prefix lengths. Now for the first time I enter my destination prefix ambayo ndio destination network ambayo ilikuwa ni 192.168.20.0, which is this one network here. Then after that I followed by question mark to see what else I can do from that command. Now inaniambia kwamba ni specify a destination prefix mask. Now since my network ilikuwa ni /30 and the /30, which means I'm going to have the total address which is 4, and only use the address here, there are only 2 addresses. Don't worry about the subnet because hatujasoma bado about subnet, but I will have a separate video explaining about subnet, and it is just very soon coming. After this video, I think that is the next lecture video. Now, the default subnet mask of /30 it is 255.255.255.252. As you can see, I specified here baada ya kuandika IP route, then nikaingiza hiyo subnet mask ya /30 ambayo ilikuwa ni 255.255.255.252. After I enter that command, I followed by question mark. I also get the couple of the options that I can do from this mode. But do you remember that, as I said from the previous lecture video, kwamba whenever you enter the destination address, then once you enter its default subnet mask, the next command here natakiwa uingize a next hop address ambayo ndio neighbors address. Na for this scope now, tukiangalia katika hii topology yetu, here we're supposed to specify a forwarding router address. Now for this scope, just watch here very careful. Since tunataka kufika katika hii network ya 192.168.20.0/30, only this router via this interface, hii router ndio inajua jinsi gani kufika katika hii network ya 192.168.20.0/30, because first it is direct connected from this network and it also have the address from this network ambayo ni 192.168.20.2. So this router knows how to reach this network, but this router doesn't know how to reach this network. So we are going to use this next hop address, ambapo hii ukiangalia hizi router mbili zimekuwa direct connected via network ya 192.168.30.0.30. So nitatumia next hop address ambayo na address ya huyo router yangu hapa, ili niweze kufika katika hii network hapa, kwa sababu hii router inajua hii network vizuri. Moja imekuwa connected kwenye hiyo network, lakini pia mbili ina address from this network. Now I entered here, ukiangalia hapa katika command line interface here down nimeandika nimespecify the next hop address ambayo ni 192.168.30.1, which is here 192.168.10.1 ambayo ni address ya hii router kwenye hii interface. So this is a next hop address, which is this one, Ethernet 0/1. So by using this interface as the next hop address, now this router it is going to be able now to reach this network. Now after I enter that command, I just show, baada ya kuongeza hiyo command nimekuja katika show IP route. Nimekuja kuangalia katika routing table sasa ya router yangu hii hapa, to see if this destination network imekuwa added katika routing table ya router yangu. Now the command is just the same. I enter the command show IP route. After I enter the command show IP route, as you can see here, these are the flags that are going to help you to know from your routing table ni protocol hipi imekuwa used na hii routing table kuweza kulearn hiyo network address. Now once you look it very careful here, there is one flag which ambayo imekuwa imeongezeka, which is S. Now tukirudi hapa juu kwenye hizi flags zetu, S inakuwa represented by static. And since we have said a static, this tunafanya manual configuration, tunaifundisha router jinsi gani ya kufika hiyo destination network. Now tukiangalia vizuri hapa inatuonyesha kwamba static route imekuwa added kwenye routing table ya router yetu. From the previous, once you remember, tulikuwa hatuna hii flag ya S. We was only having S and L, but we didn't have this flag of S. Since after we have already teach our router on how to reach this network ambayo ni 192.168.20.0/30, now this address imekuwa added kwenye its routing table via via the flag ambayo ni S, which means was learned by this router to its static route ambapo tulifanya static route configuration. Now which means this router and these devices which are connected from this router, they are able to reach this network here. Since we have those, since tunayo hii network address katika routing table yetu. So for the router ili uweze kuforward a frame, for the router ili uweze kuforward a packet kutoka network moja kwenda network nyingine, cha kwanza lazima iwe hiyo destination ya kwenda lazima iwe katika routing table yake. Basi kama haipo hiyo packet haitokuwa weza kuwa send kufika katika hiyo destination unless it is going to be dropped by the router, because it doesn't have those address to its routing table. Now let us have a simple quiz and test our understanding kama tumeelewa. Now the another thing that nimesahau kukwambia ni kwamba for the router, for example, ime receive a frame kuja katika hii interface. For example, let me explain here from this quiz. I will explain here from the first quiz, then we are going to do the rest by ourselves. Now, for the first time, this router ime receive a frame kutoka kwenye hii interface yake Ethernet 0/0, na hiyo packet ime contain address ya 192.168.30.2. This as a destination address. So once this packet is arrived to the router interface, the router it is going to decrypt this packet and see the destination IP address. After see the destination IP address, itakwenda kuangalia katika its routing table. Yeah, do I have this address from my routing table? And once we look is yes, this address 192.168.30.2, it is here in the routing table ya router yetu hii hapa, and it is here 192.168.30.2/32. It is direct connected via Ethernet 0/0, and it was learned by L, which means local. Now, once we remember, a /32 means this, it is a fixed address, which means this is the address of a specific interface from that router. Now, once we come from a topology from this router, which interface is Ethernet 0/0? And it is this one. Now, this packet, it is going to be forwarded direct from this interface. Now, the question here comes. Tukiangalia vizuri hapa kuna option mbili. Kuna moja ambayo ni C ambayo ni connected, but the other one it is L, which is local. But also katika hii ya direct connected ya 192.168.30.0/30, it is direct connected via Ethernet 0/0. Why haijatumia? Kwa nini router haijatumia hii interface? Now, the most thing here that you're supposed to know also, for the router to forward a packet to the destination network, it first look the best route kuweza kufikia hiyo destination network. And how does it choose the best route? It use only one principle here. It use the most specific address from its routing table. Nikisema the most specific address from its routing table, namaanisha kwamba the address yenye prefix length ndefu. So for example here, ukiangalia katika hii address ya 192.168.30.0 kuna routing mbili. Ya kwanza imekuwa LAN via it is direct connected by C, na ya kwanza ni via L. But the highest prefix length here it is /32. So the router is just going to use this, the interface, the address with the highest prefix length and the most specific address kuweza kuforward hiyo frame. Now, I'm hoping you understand. Let us use another example here and you must understand very more. For example, hii router imepokea a destination packet from its interface Ethernet 0/2, and the packet ina contain a destination IP address ambayo ni 192.168.0.2. So once this once this packet is alive from the router interface for the first time, the router is going first to decrypt this packet, and then it is going to look this destination IP address from its routing table. Now, the first question is, do this interface is contained from the routing table of our router? And the answer is no. This address, it is not contained from our router routing table. So what is going to be done? The router, it is going to discard this packet. It is not going to forward any packet from this interface of this address, because ikiangalia katika its routing table yake haina address ya hii packet, haina address ya hii destination network 172.168.16.0.2. So the router, it is going to drop this packet. Now, okay, for this time now, the router receive a packet via its interface Ethernet 0/2, and it contains the destination address ya 192.168.30.1. Now, once this packet inapo arrive to its router, to its interface ambayo ni Ethernet 0/2, the router for the first time it is going to decrypt this packet. After it decrypt this packet, it is going to cross-check this destination IP address ambayo ni 192.168.30.1, and it is going to ask by itself, do I have a route from this network ambayo ni 192.168.30.1? So it is going to cross-check from its routing table. Now, the question is, do this router have the route from this network? And the answer is yes. Our router, it has a route to this network ambayo ni 192.168.30.1. So the packet, it is going to be forwarded to the destination network. But if hii destination network kama ingelikuwa haipo kwenye hii routing table yake, the router, it is going to discard that packet, and the packet is not going to be forwarded to the destination network. Now, let us see over which interface will the router use to forward this packet to the destination network. Now, do you remember the principle that is going to be used by the router? The interface with the most specific address, it is going to be used by the router at the best path to the destination network. Now, from our routing table, which interface it contains the best route to the destination network? Now, once we look here, the answer is via this connected, via direct connected ambao ni 192.168.30.0.0/30. So kupitia hii interface ya Ethernet 0/0, basi hii address ndio itakuwa send kwa hiyo destination, kuweza kufikia hiyo destination network. It is not going to use this address because it is a specific address na imekuwa fixed, which means does not change or will not be increased. It is just fixed. Hii ni address ya hiyo interface from our topology. So this is the address of this interface here, ambayo ni Ethernet 0/0. The address yake ni 192.168.30.2. So it is not going to use this last address, and it is going to use this one address. And thank you for watching my video. That was all about this lab.